What would happen if we pivot and we start putting the people that we're supporting in the driver's seat of their care?
This is one thing that frustrates me so much, because then I go to this therapist and they're doing their own thing. And then I go to this provider and they're doing their own thing. And the school's doing their own thing. And nobody's communicating and nobody's connected.
If we bring teams together and decrease silos, we can focus more on what people want for themselves versus focusing on what everybody in each of these teams wants for them. And then families aren't so exhausted because they only had to tell their story once.
Every parent carries a story, every advocate carries hope, and every caregiver deserves to be seen. Welcome to The Circle, where we come together at the Parent Forge to share, to learn, and to remember that our voices are strongest when they rise together.
As a parent of kids with disabilities, and then also as a mental health provider, I keep hearing a lot of parents saying that they feel like they are the caseworkers, or they are the people who are connecting the dots between all the different services that their kids need. And it makes them stressed out because it seems like everybody's doing their own thing. So today I have Julie Lago, who I think is the best person to talk about this. And we're going to talk about breaking the silos. And so I'll have Julie introduce herself. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
Yes, tell everybody who you are.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Julie Lago. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the owner of Connections Always, where I do consulting and training. But I also am the executive director at the National Center for START Services at the University for New Hampshire's Institute on Disability. And silos, well, that is... addressing silos is my thing. Silos or not. I know that there are gaps in our system.
Yeah.
And the gaps that we see are because systems very frequently aren't working together. You get a little over here and a little over there. But we're people. And your children, well, they have names, which means that they're a whole person, and a little over here and a little over there, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is one thing that frustrates me so much, because then I go to this therapist and they're doing their own thing. And then I go to this provider and they're doing their own thing. And the school's doing their own thing. And nobody's communicating and nobody's connected. And I feel like I'm in the middle of it. But I'm also mom and I work. And I have a life. So it just makes it so frustrating. And I'm not the only person, because I hear it a lot. A lot of caregivers feel frustrated because it's like people are not communicating, systems are not connecting. So what is happening here?
I think that we all, as professionals, it's so easy for us to put our own hat on, right? So if, as a social worker, I put on my social work hat and I know what I'm good at and staying within my scope of practice. And the medical professionals, they do the same thing. But the reality is that when we go to a doctor and then we go to a therapist and then we might go to a school or whatever might come next, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. And the reality is a lot of people get all of those things. They repeat their stories every single time. And I can't imagine how exhausting that is. It's like a game of telephone, and you repeat it, and you repeat it, and you repeat it, and somebody comes up with a different plan every time, but they're not communicating what these plans are. And that is where you find caregiver burnout.
Yes. Talk about that. Yeah.
So really addressing decreasing silos and systems and getting to comprehensive, cohesive, collaborative care. Well, we can use all these words, but if we don't actually define how to do that and how to simplify it, then it's not going to happen. These can be really novel concepts.
Yes.
A lot of times bringing collaboration to teams and between multiple providers, it actually makes our jobs easier. Because we don't have to play a guessing game. And I can go in and say, hey, Amma's really, this is Amma's specialty. I'm gonna communicate with Amma. I know exactly how she's gonna handle the situation, because if we're all at the same table and we find ways to set expectations of care, not be the exception, but if we can decrease silos by creating opportunities for people to come together, hear the message at the same time, know what hat each person's wearing, and then what their takeaways are, well, then we build trust. And I know what you're going to do with that information. I trust you to do with it. You know what I'm going to do with that.
Yes.
And then families aren't so exhausted because they only had to tell their story once.
Wow. But, what she's saying sounds like the perfect scenario. If it could work that way, I'll be the happiest mom, because then I don't have to try to figure it out by myself.
Yeah.
But then how do we get there? That's the question, right? It's easier said than done. The picture you're creating is just a perfect picture.
Yeah.
Let's all have a team. Let's have a meeting.
Right.
But how is that even going to happen? How do we do that?
It's a great question. If we don't ask, if we don't communicate with our teams and say, here is what I would like to see happen, it's not going to happen. If we have the expectation that this is too difficult, it's not going to happen. But if we start to set those expectations, right? So let's say your child works with a developmental services agency. When planning for a meeting, how does that communication happen of who do you want present? Are you planning accordingly with enough time to invite people to be there? Because we know that time is precious.
Yeah.
But if meetings are not planned with enough time, you're not going to get people at the table.
Yeah.
Are you defining those meetings with the purpose? So people feel like they're valued, and what is their purpose and what is the necessity for them to be there? Are we communicating all of those things to say, this meeting is not going to be the same without you. Here's why we need you at the table. So we are being intentional, we're being clear, we're being very strategic in how we're planning. So the where, the what, the when, planning accordingly in advance. And then making sure that everybody feels valued.
Yes.
Also setting expectations. What is our hope for this? So maybe bringing people together, or if you're meeting with your team members individually, communicating with them and saying, I want to develop a new team culture. We're all working by ourselves, or we're all working alone, but this isn't working for my family, and I want a team, and here's the culture that we want to develop. Because team culture, that changes everything.
Yes.
When everybody's on the same page, you have the same team. When people are not on the same page, it's a different story.
So a lot of what I'm hearing from you is me as the caregiver or me as the advocate for my kids needs to ask for this. Is that it? And nobody's going to do this for me.
Nobody's going to ask if you don't ask first. Now maybe there are providers out there that might, but if this is something that you want, there's no harm in asking. And then if you have people that are case managers for you or something like that, asking for support. Part of self-care is knowing who your team is, what roles they play, and asking for support. The same goes for parents of children that are in schools. Who needs to be in an IEP meeting? And how do we decrease silos? Think about all the things that that can present as barriers to a child's learning in school. If they're experiencing a medical need, now it doesn't necessarily mean that the medical provider might be able to be at that meeting, but are we making sure to get every bit of information that's necessary in advance? Do we know when those meetings are happening? Do we have enough time to prepare? Are we being thoughtful so we can bring together that collaboration and decrease as many silos as possible? The other way to decrease silos is get rid of having 10 goals, 15 goals. I've seen so many goals.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep.
What would happen if we have one set of goals
Yeah.
between, let's say you have multiple programs
Yeah.
or multiple services. You have one set of goals and then different objectives.
Yeah.
So if somebody is, let's say they have mental health services and developmental service systems supporting them. Well, have you ever accomplished any of your goals in life without supporting your mental health? We have to know how to do those things.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at somebody trying to achieve employment, well, first and foremost, we need to make sure that they know that they're getting enough sleep, that they're able to take care of themselves, that they can wear, that they know what clothing might be appropriate. So that might be where the developmental service system might come in. But when it comes to mental health, can they manage their anxiety,
Yeah.
their depression? Can they do they know how to take their medications? Because is employment really going to be successful if any of us
True.
don't take care of those?
True.
So focus on one thing and then all work together is the name of
Yeah.
it.
So it's not like this team has their goal and then these people have their goal. So then one kid is being bounced around.
And expected to do everything. Hey, magician.
Yeah.
Go, experience it
So
all.
true. That's a lot of pressure on parents and caregivers too, because then it's like we need to make sure that all these goals are being. Oh yeah, that's a lot. Definitely a lot.
What if we made them realistic? Because the goals that we set for people, well, or the challenges, we use the word set for people versus helping people set goals for themselves. What do they want? And if we bring teams together and decrease silos, we can focus more on what people want for themselves versus focusing on what everybody in each of these teams wants for them.
Wow. Wow. As you said that, what came to my mind is person-centered care. That's what popped up
Yes.
in my mind as you said that. Yeah.
Who really should be the lead of these teams? And if it's exhausting for us, as whether it's caregivers or as professionals, to repeat stories, for the people that we are supporting, your children, my family members, the people I support at work, how exhausting must it be for them to repeat their story, or even worse yet, potentially hear other people repeating their story,
Yeah.
and possibly not being given the opportunity to have a voice for themselves if they're able to control that narrative. So really integrating a person-centered approach and making sure that the people that we are supporting are at the lead of their team. And we're
Yeah.
asking them, what do they want? What's the most important thing we talked about?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you created Bookends, and I would want you to share a bit about it because I feel like people might be interested in knowing more. This is a very short conversation, but
Sure.
for anybody who wants to follow up, you
Yes.
know, and get to know what you do, if you
Yeah.
want to share a bit.
Absolutely. So I developed a model called Bookends Therapy, and it's a model of training in a certification model where it's exactly what it sounds like. The support at the beginning and end of something, really where the important part is in the middle. And so if you think about like a doctor's appointment, when you go in and you're talking and you're in that doctor's appointment, it's important what we're reporting out, what we're learning, and what our what we're assessing and what the follow-up is. But it's all about how we retain that information. Now, so often with people with disabilities or people who are elderly or might have memory impairments or anybody that might have a caregiver, You go into a doctor's appointment and the first person they look at is the caregiver, and they start asking questions to the caregiver. We're not modeling that person-centered approach. So Bookends, first and foremost, models the person-centered approach. Let's speak to the person that we're supporting. And then check with the caregiver just to make sure, are there any discrepancies, anything that we're missing, but doing so while really making sure that we are respecting the person and services. And then meeting with them, giving them the opportunity individually to do whatever service it is. It can be in any setting, schools, medical, therapy, really in the community, anywhere. And when we bring that support person back in, who does the teaching? Because what I learned from being a therapist for so many years is when I brought forward the skill set and I said, hey, here's what we need to work on for next week, here are the thoughts, it became, well, Julie said you need to. And if it didn't happen, well, you did something wrong. What would happen if we pivot and we start putting the people that we're supporting in the driver's seat of their care? And so allowing them the opportunity and asking the questions and making sure that we understand how they retain the information. What do they want people to know? How can their support system be of support to them? If I don't ask, I don't know.
Yeah.
That is a missed opportunity. So Bookends brings that all together in a way that can be replicable, help decrease silos so all team members can be on the same page, and really creating a culture of autonomy and cohesion. And it's wonderful. And I'm so lucky to do that as my business, and then be able to focus with the National Center for Start Services on linkage. And there we focus on making sure that all programs, because of these silos, can be linked to support people with mental health needs and intellectual disabilities. So clearly, I've really dedicated my work to anything that can help decrease silos, bring programs and professionals together to really just see the whole person.
Yeah. Julie is awesome. I love her. And she's really passionate about what she does. And she demonstrates it even in her personal relationships. So I think that's awesome. Yeah. And a lot of what I'm learning as you're sharing all that is that we as caregivers need to stand up and advocate for what we need. And that's what many of us don't know that we do need, right? To stand up. And that's why I created the Parent Forge, because we believe that caregivers need to be empowered with all the resources and the tools so that they can step into their power as confident advocate for their kids and their family members, to make sure that they have everything that they need, like the team approach that Julie's talking about. And so I'm going to put all of Julie's links in the description if you want to follow up on the Bookends. I know she has a lot of trainings that she does. I'm going to put everything down there. Follow her, learn more. And then again, don't forget to please connect with us also at the Parent Forge. We have free listening circles every week. Go to theparentforge.com/listening circles and sign up for our next one. And hopefully that can be the beginning of your journey into getting all the resources and the tools that you need to step into your power as a true confident advocate for you and your children and your family members. What's the last word you have for us, Julie?
Be willing to develop the expectation and not the exception.
Awesome. All right. So take care and have a lovely week.
Thank you for joining us in the circle at the Parent Forge. If this conversation spoke to you, we'd love for you to join our free weekly listening circle, a space to pause, breathe, and connect with others who understand the journey. Subscribe, share, and keep the conversation going. And remember, together we are forging strength, one conversation at a time.